Welcome back to the Combat and Canvas YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about how much UFC fighters really cut. I'm Max here with Brady, and this is a really interesting topic because it's normally not really talked about, but thankfully UFC 298 was this month and it was in California, and California is one of those states that requires things to be disclosed. And man, some of these cuts are absolutely insane where the guys are rehydrating up a ridiculous amount. So I just wanted to talk that real quick with Brady and break some of these down because some of these are pretty shocking.
Yeah, so we'll get into it. I have it pulled up right here. Yeah, this is crazy. So I guess we'll start off because he's on the first list. The person who weighed the most coming in, because as you can see here, the approved weight, and then they have the weigh-in weight, and then the event weight. So Mr. 10 down here, Jeff Neal, I mean, approved weight at 170. He weighed in at 170.5, but then came in on fight night with 200.8. So that's a 30.3 weight gain in 24 hours.
Insane.
That's insane.
Yeah, so they've been mentioning wanting to maybe add in another weight class and potentially even get rid of the 170-pound division. So it could potentially go 155, 165, 175, and then 185. So I honestly can see why. Yeah, that would definitely help Jeff because there is a bit of a bigger gap for some of the divisions, and it makes a lot more in between weight guys where they could probably make it down a weight or they could probably go up a weight, but it would just be a little bit too strenuous on the body, or they would be a little bit too undersized if they went up in weight. So yeah, Jeff Neal, bro, from 170 to 200, especially if you look at Ian Gary, he's on the other page, but there was like at least 20-pound difference of the two in the ring, where I think Ian Gary weighed in at 170 and then was only 180 for fight day. Yeah, 180. So only gained 10 pounds. That's what happens when you're on a vegan diet for fighting. I don't know what's going on with that, but clearly it's not working, bro.
Yeah.
And then
like some of these are just insane. So like I will say, I'll give a little heads up, like the women, obviously, don't gain too much back. So if you see the list, like right here, Andrea Lee, like her approved weight's 125, coming in, weighing in at 125.5, but then she's only gaining up to 136.2 pounds. So that's only 10 pounds, which is still crazy if you think about it. 10 pounds in 24 hours, but it's not anything abnormal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Especially for these. So like you'll see a lot of them. And there's some smaller guys like Oban Elliott. He's only gaining 15 pounds, 14.7 to be exact. But yeah, so some of the smaller weights, but man, some of these bigger weights is insane.
It's just so interesting to see how some fighters cut much, much more than other fighters and how that could be an advantage. And sometimes has no effect on the fight. So it makes you, I wish there was a way to just eliminate dehydrating the fighters the day before, but unfortunately I'm not sure if it's really possible. One has been trying it with the hydration tests. It's had mixed results. So I don't know if this will ever go away, but yeah, it's insane. And another one that I was honestly pretty interested in was how Volk went up to 166 pounds. So that was probably around how much he was fighting Islam. So I want to know how much Islam weighs for his fights, because it's got to be at least 180, because he looks massive in there compared to Volk.
Yeah, and then as you can see, we'll just run through it real quick. So Andrea Lee weighs in at 125.5, weighs on fight night 136, like we said. Oban Elliott 175, 170.5, and then 185.2. But then we have Josh Quinlan, who's coming in weighing at 169, and then coming in at 187.8 on fight night, so 18.8. But then it starts to get higher, because when you get up in weight, like coming in at 204.5 on weigh-in day, but then 230.2.
Yeah, 230, so bro. That could be a heavyweight.
25.7. That's insane. Rinya Nakamura Basically makes way at 135.5, but then only boosting up to 147. So not too bad, 11
Yeah, and
pounds.
he dominated.
And then the craziest thing I thought was the heavyweight. So Marcos
Yeah,
Delima, he's coming in at 261.5, which is under the approved weight of 265. But then on fight
yeah,
day, he's weighing in at 273. So he technically didn't have to lose all the weight that he lost,
yeah.
which is wild that he just did it. I mean,
Yeah, you'd think they'd be monitoring it as they go so they don't that doesn't happen where he's not overly dehydrated for no reason. But yeah, that
yeah.
just goes to show that that's what happened because 273 pounds, I mean, that is a significant jump.
Yeah, 11 pounds when he really didn't need to.
Yeah. I mean, it could have
Um,
just been less than 10.
and then we have the women, like I mentioned, a lot of them, like you see here, 115 pounds coming in at 115.5, but then only gaining 123.8. So at 8.3 weight gain, like I said, when you're dehydrated, I'm sure that that 8.3 is killer, but it's not as bad as some of these. So like
Yeah.
Anthony Hernandez coming in at 185.5, but then gaining up to 203.6, so 18.1. And that's a big boy for the division too.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%, man. What's crazy is he doesn't even look like that huge when he's in there, but it's just crazy how much everyone's cutting weight. And I wish that they would honestly show this off more, where
Yeah.
I feel like it'd give more context to the fight.
100%. Like Marab, he's coming in on weight, 135 pounds, but then on fight day, 156.8, so a 21 pound, and he's smaller, but he's a little stocky, so that's
Yeah.
a lot to handle. And then obviously we talked about Jeff Neal. He is the highest on the entire card at
Yeah.
coming in 30 pounds, so that's crazy. But then Robert
Yeah.
Whitaker's close with coming in at 185.5, and then on fight day 207.6, so 22.1
Yeah.
pounds up.
Stocky.
So yeah, he's big too.
Stocky
Volk we
guy.
talked about. Volk actually coming in underweight, 0.5,
Yeah.
144.5, but then
Making that championship weight.
166.2. Obviously, he never misses weight. But then when we go over here, it starts to get interesting. So
Yeah.
Miranda Maverick coming in over at 126, but not insanely over. I mean, she gets
Yeah.
that. It's not a championship fight, but
1
still.
pound.
And then 135 on fight day. So, man, this right here goes to show that how strenuous it really is, because she couldn't lose that 1 pound, and then she's
Yeah.
boosting up almost 10 pounds in less than 24 hours. Like, the dehydration is insane, and it's a wonder. Honestly, it's a wonder that we don't have more pullouts due to dehydration
Yeah,
on a weekly
100%. It's
basis.
crazy how normalized this is, and I just wonder if would we have better performances if fighters didn't have to drain so much weight just
Probably
in order
so,
to
yeah.
have comparable size?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. Val Woodburn coming in underweight by 0.5, 169.5, but then on fight day, 184, so a 14.5 pound jump.
Yeah.
Then how about Danny Barlow?
Dude,
He's
I see why it hit so hard.
170.
Yeah.
Yeah, 170 pounds. He comes in at 171, so he didn't technically miss weight because he has the pound advantage, but then he coming in on fight day at 197.8. So
I did
like
not
he's
see that
almost a
coming.
light heavyweight. And he's like, I mean, he's
At
not the
welterweight.
biggest dude, but he's a little tall. But Jesus, like
Yeah.
we know what he has power, and this is why right here.
I know,
Almost
man.
200 pounds.
I wish they would highlight this on the screen because I feel like casual fans will be watching the fights and be like, "Oh, these guys are 150 pounds. I could take these guys easily," but they don't really understand that that's
Yeah,
not what they weigh during the
fight.
actual fight, and
Yeah.
that weight is actually the weakest they'll be at any point in
Yeah.
the camp, and so they're not really 150 pounds. They're normally more like 170, 180, honestly. So I honestly wish that every state and every athletic commission acquired this because not only is it interesting, I feel like it provides context for safety concerns as well as advantages certain fighters have and how that ties into the fight.
Yeah. Brendan Snow Ribeiro, a light heavyweight, coming in on weight, 205.5, but then only going up to 219.6. So like I said, he's one of the I noticed that the heavyweights and light heavyweights don't move that much, and it makes sense, because they're
Yeah,
already big. Especially the heavyweights, they probably don't even need to cut that much, and we'll
yeah, if
see
at
this
all.
here in a little bit. Um, Carlos Vera, 135.5, jumping up to 158.6, so 23 pounds.
Yeah, that one's pretty
That's a
crazy.
lot. Yeah, that's a lot. And then right here, this is Junior Tava. If you didn't know, this is his real name, which is
Me and
wild.
Brady just found that out.
So 265-pound weight limit. He's coming in, and he was on short notice. Like, he was literally 24 hours notice. So he came in at 249 pounds and then dropped weight. And on fight day, it was 247.
Yeah,
So negative 2 pounds in 24 hours. Like, he's probably the healthiest on the card. He
yeah,
did lose technically but he was 24 hours notice. But crazy. He didn't even need
yeah.
to lose weight. And if anything, he lost more weight than he even needed to at all on
Yeah, I
fight
feel like
day.
if anything, it was probably he was just not really in great shape. So even just getting a little loose and getting warmed up for the fight, burn some
Yeah.
calories and burn some pounds off because maybe he was eating good before and
I'm sure.
let me tone it back, get locked in. But yeah, that was a crazy fight how he stepped in for his brother.
Mackenzie Dern coming in 116 pounds on a 115-pound weight limit, and then boosting up to 127, so 11 pounds. That's a significant amount, but again, it's a little
Yeah,
bit different for these
yeah,
smaller women,
yeah. I
especially.
feel
I
like
mean,
the women have a harder time cutting weight, so they
yeah,
don't have as much of a crazy jump back up when they rehydrate. But still, I
yeah.
mean, 9% is crazy.
Yeah, like, I don't mean this in a bad way, but a lot of the women are already small, you know what I'm saying? So I'm
Yeah,
sure cutting weight is such a struggle for them
yeah,
because, like, I don't know, like, for sure, but I'm sure they have, like, very, very low body fat percentage.
yeah,
So when you're trying and struggling to lose that weight, like we see here, a lot of the Miranda Maverick coming in 1 pound over, Mackenzie Dern coming in 1 pound over, like, it's probably such a struggle to even get down to that
yep,
because at
100%.
127, they're not even really big. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So it's crazy. One of the smaller weigh-ins for men,
this was
185,
surprising to me.
and then Roman coming in at only 194, so 9 pounds up, and he's
Yeah,
pretty big.
I know. I always thought of him as a bigger middleweight, but
Yeah,
194 is definitely not on the bigger side. So I was honestly shocked by that. He just must fill out well, or maybe his just skips leg day or something. Because bro, his back is massive. So I
yeah.
always pictured him whenever he was fighting his opponents as the much heavier guy. But I guess that might not always be the case.
And then I'm sure for him, like, it's so struggle, but this probably helps so much for him. Like,
Yeah,
it's probably not that bad. I don't know. Obviously, this is his fight day weight, but I'm sure his walk around weight is like close.
yeah,
So over what, a 6-week camp, this is probably nothing for him. So that's not that bad for Roman. Like, so whoever's doing his stuff, like, good job, because I'm sure he's probably the least dehydrated out of anyone on this card because he's
yeah.
obviously, other than the heavyweights, but yeah, like,
For only
easy
five
work for
pounds
him.
jump. Yeah,
And then Cejudo on weight 135, but then coming in at 150.6, so 15.6 pounds jump.
yeah. So
Cejudo's a
he
little stocky guy too, so
Yeah, but interestingly enough, he was actually 6 pounds lighter than Merab because Merab was
yeah,
156, so Merab had a
yeah,
little bit of a weight advantage, and, I think he used it well, honestly.
very, very well. We saw how that wrestling worked out for him. We talked about Ian Gary, so 170.5 he
Yeah.
came in, and 180.9, one of the second lowest on the card, so only jumped up 10.1 for the men.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
that
he's
that
talking
beat him.
about fighting Sean Strickland. I'm like, "Bro, you're not even a middleweight, like, without
One
cutting."
fight
So
day.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, I feel like he'd have a big disadvantage weight-wise if he were to go up in weight because he's not even hitting 185 pounds while fully hydrated, so what would he be facing a real true 185 pounder who rehydrates up to, like, for example, Paulo Costa at 215, he'd have a
Yeah.
35-pound disadvantage if he went up in weight and fought someone like that.
I'm
So
sure
I
Ian Gary would
definitely,
probably come in on weight on
yeah,
fight day if he fought at 185.
yeah. I don't think he should. Looking at this, I think 170 is where he should stay because 10 pounds is probably a pretty easy cut for him, and so just keep doing that and stay away from those big boys.
Yeah, and then we just talked about it. So 185.5 he comes in at. And then Paulo Costa jumps up to 215.2. So second biggest on the card aside Jeff Neal, 29.7 pounds. And this is surprising for me for a different way. I thought he would be more because he's massive on fight day. He
Dude,
really
yeah.
is so big. And that he's bigger than Jeff Neal is a little bit surprising though, because or he's smaller than Jeff Neal. I mean, surprising because, like I said,
Yeah,
he
less
looks
of a
freaking
jump.
jacked in there.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
dude, what's crazy because he could probably fight at 205 where he's came in weight and been saying he's like 230 on fight week and he's not going to be able to make weight whenever he was fighting not Robert, whenever he was fighting Marvin. So I was like, this guy's got to be like, when he's just walking around, got to be like 240. So I feel like if he had more time to rehydrate, he probably could get even bigger.
100%. Yeah. Like, this is a guy who I think could be fighting at 205,
Yeah,
not like easily. Um,
100%.
and then last on the card, Ilya Topuria, who comes in at 144.5, so 5 pound, 0.5 pounds under, jumping up to 167.2, so 22.7 pounds up for
Yeah,
the new champ, Ilya Topuria. Like, wow. And then if you compare it to Volk, so Volk's coming in at 166.2, he's coming in at 167.2. So not much of a
yeah.
advantage on Volk, but still for these guys that are 145 jumping all the way up.
Yeah,
Like
22 pounds is definitely not an easy cut by any means, and I do think that as he ages, he might get a little tired of making weight at 145, and I could honestly see his power translating up to 155. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on as his title reign continues, because I think he's going to be here for a long time.
yeah, especially if you think about man, we could go on about Ilya Topuria. That boxing
Yeah,
is crazy, and we
bro.
talked
Yeah,
about it, the potential of him fighting Brian Ortega next. But
pray for
but
Brian.
now I will say that I think it was yesterday he said about he will not be fighting or defending the title until October, November time. So
Yeah,
that could mean that the rematch with Volkanovski could happen if he's going to take that long time off because then by the time training and all that,
yeah, because Volk needs at
we could see
least
it in Spain.
yeah, Volk needs at least a little, at least like 6 months off, and then it's like back training up hard because back-to-back KOs is not good, but yeah, like you said, if it's going to be at the end of the year, that's the perfect time for Volk where he doesn't want to wait too long because he's like 35, so
Roughly 8
time is
months, I
of the
think
essence.
it would be
Yeah,
roughly 8 months if
yeah,
he were to fight in October or November, 7 to 8 months, and I think that's honestly okay for Volk. Like we said, back-to-back knockouts,
yeah,
you know?
not great.
Um, but then one thing I'd also wanted to touch on, so Volk, 145 goes up to 166, but we saw him in the last fight before Topuria, he was up.
Yeah,
So, I would love to see what he came in on that fight
I know,
because
and that's what I'm saying. This stuff needs to be public. I don't see why they try to hide it. Like, I feel like they try
yeah,
to make it seem safer by not showing how much they dehydrate, but I really think that
we
it's much
know.
more
I mean,
valuable. Yeah, we all know we just have to look at them on weigh-in day to know how much they're dehydrated. They look like
yeah,
skeletons. So
exactly.
I feel like they should just have this for every single event in all combat sports, honestly. I remember HBO Boxing used to do this for boxing where it'd say weigh-in day and then fight weight. So I want to know how much they're gaining weight each and every fight. That way we can track. Maybe they're getting bigger and bigger as their career goes on. Maybe it makes sense why they want to move up in weight. So I just think it's a lot. It'd be interesting to be able to track it over a fighter's career, in addition to being able to see what type of weight advantages on fight day fighters are dealing with.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So shout out to California for posting these and actually putting it out there because I wish everyone else would do that.
Yeah,
Just insane. So Paulo Costa, Jeff Neal, like the two highest on the card. Shout out to them. Shout out to their opponents for
yeah,
both winning. They got beat coming in at the
yeah,
bigger weight. So that's
100%,
interesting.
man. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes I feel like cutting all that weight could be it's a double-bladed sword where yeah, you might have an advantage, but you might not be able to fully rehydrate in that short amount of
Yeah.
time, depending on if you're cutting 30 plus pounds, which is insane.
Yeah, it's interesting because especially I want to use the Ian Gary fight. So Ian Gary only cut about 10 pounds or whatever from fight day 2 weigh-in,
Yeah.
and, Jeff Neal cutting 30.
Yeah.
In the
20-pound difference.
performance, we saw in the performance how timid Jeff Neal was. Is that a possibility that it was because of so much back and forth with the weight? Because not
Yeah.
only cutting the weight, but then pushing your body up all the way to gain 30 pounds in 24 hours, also not healthy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, and
like
then having to fight that same
yeah,
day as you just probably feeling your body to rehydrate and re-energize. So I really do wish there was something that we could do to minimize how much these guys are getting dehydrated, but I don't think there's been a liable solution yet. But let us know if you guys have any ideas in the comments, because I think that this is might become more and more of an issue as the sport continues to grow and grow, and it might be a bit of a hindrance for young athletes to be seeing fighters having to cut so much weight so consistently, where
yeah,
in other sports it's like you just show up and play.
yeah, for sure. So let us know.
Yep.
Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Check out the gaming channel, which will be in the link in the description. We're posting on there a lot. So
Yes,
if you want
sir.
to see some UFC 5, some gaming content, go down there and watch that. Yeah.
Yeah. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and we'll keep them coming for you. And as always, thanks for watching and have a great one.